I am here tonight because our elected officials are ignoring the demands of their constituents. I am here tonight asking the City of Waterbury Board of Aldermen to support a ceasefire resolution.
Now from the article, quote, "We have to plan for the fact that Congress may make that pause permanent," unquote. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller told reporters on Tuesday. Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to the Struggle Video News. Today we'll be talking about a ceasefire resolution effort in one Connecticut city, UNRWA, and the Academy Awards. In Waterbury, Connecticut, activists have been trying to get their Board of Aldermen to adopt a ceasefire resolution. The rules of their board allow for public comment on any matter. So at the latest meeting, many chose to talk about Gaza, and we'll have some of their remarks.
Good evening, respected alders. I am here tonight as a concerned resident of Waterbury, Linda McDermott, a concerned resident of the state of Connecticut and the United States. I am here tonight because I have been witnessing live on social media the most documented genocide in history. I am here tonight because our elected officials are ignoring the demands of their constituents. I am here tonight asking the City of Waterbury Board of Aldermen to support a ceasefire resolution. I've learned the Board of Aldermen feels that a ceasefire doesn't apply to the city. I feel quite the opposite, that it absolutely does apply to all of us. For several weeks now, each and every day, I have been calling our elected officials, our representatives and senators in Congress, asking that they demand an immediate and permanent ceasefire to end the siege of Gaza, allow for humanitarian aid to get to the people of Palestine, and to vote no on any resolutions providing money from our hard-earned tax dollars to fund Israel's military. They have not listened to us. Those who voted them into their positions, so now we have to come to you, our local elected officials of the City of Waterbury, and ask that you do the right thing and stand on the right side of justice and humanity. Support a ceasefire resolution. Please listen to the people. I, as well as thousands of other citizens, have been the voice of the people of Palestine who have no voice. No one is listening to them, and it is well past time for you to listen to us. We know the statistics. We've heard them over and over again. 30,000 plus innocent Palestinians killed, innocent men, women, and children, thousands and thousands seriously injured. Many children are now orphans. Orphan children lose their family identity in Gaza. Orphan children in Gaza have an acronym, WCNSF, Wounded Child, No Surviving Family. Can you imagine the trauma that these children are experiencing every single day? We know that people are literally starving to death due to Israel's blocking of humanitarian aid through humanitarian borders, which is a war crime. The situation is dire, and it's happening right in front of all of our eyes. And the state of Connecticut invests millions of dollars of public employee pension money into Israeli companies, funds from pensions from our municipal employees, teachers, and state workers, $95 million. Our government is sending billions of dollars, our tax dollars, to fund Israel's military. Wouldn't the City of Waterbury put good use to some of those tax dollars that are sent to Israel? This money could be invested in our schools, our infrastructure, our social services, healthcare, and our housing. Money that we need here in this country, in the city, is being used to support a genocide, and our government is complicit. Americans, particularly those here in Connecticut, as a state home to many weapons manufacturers that are supplying weapons, should be very concerned that there are no conditions put on Israel. They continue to destroy Palestine and its people with no accountability whatsoever. We cannot let this continue, and we need to call for an immediate ceasefire within our local communities. We have families right here in Waterbury that are from Palestine, families that have lost so much. We should all be demanding a ceasefire. And as someone who works with children, my heart breaks for the children of Gaza that are still alive, suffering so much trauma, Some have died from heart attacks due to the stress and trauma they've experienced at 5 years of age. These children will suffer enduring trauma for the rest of their lives, and that trauma has become vicarious trauma for all of us here. Many of us are witnessing the horror of what is happening in Gaza every day, live through social media, and we are suffering ourselves as we continue to watch what's happening, and our government is complicit.
1 minute.
As a Muslim, it's my obligation to speak out against any injustice and oppression. We're shouting from the rooftops for our government to stop being complicit, stop funding these atrocities, stop aiding Israel. Tonight, we're raising our voices here to ask the city of Waterbury to do the right thing and support a ceasefire resolution. Please be on the right side of history. Ceasefire now, free Palestine. Thank you.
My name is Al Abatabale. I used to be a longtime resident of Waterbury and worked at the University of Connecticut Waterbury campus for 30 years. I'm here about the resolution to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. And I'm going to use the editorial in the Waterbury paper to comment from, which was published February 28, 2024. The editorial says, there is nothing useful to say about the conflict in the Gaza Strip by this body. It's 5,600 miles southwest of the Grass City, Waterbury, Connecticut. The distance from the Brass City is irrelevant to common humanity. It transcends the distance. And so I find that as a weak argument by the editorial board of the Waterbury paper. Yes, Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, and that was an improper and inappropriate action by them, and no one, I think, would deny it. But since the killing by Hamas of 1,200 Israelis, the Israeli army has killed 30,000 men, women, and children in Gaza. You see it frequently on the television or every night when our so-called free press attempts to address it.
I am from Gaza. Instead of speaking for the other half of my family who don't have a voice, the ones who are starving, the ones who are picking up flowers from the floor and picking through animal feed to even have an iftar. It makes no sense that the situation in Gaza is too complex for a ceasefire, because ceasefire is very simple. It means stop firing. It's so simple that it's designed to be heard and understood in the middle of a battle. On a personal note, my family and I had devastating news that one of my immediate relatives' family, 4 generations, has been bombed, their house has been bombed and collapsed. 45 known fatalities and 20 missing under the rubble. That happened in Deir el-Balah in the middle of Gaza on February 22nd. My father learned about it on the news that night. Right now, since the war has started, there have been over 85 fatalities within the Yagi family in Gaza. So I ask you, Waterbury, to act like human beings and call for a permanent ceasefire. Thank you.
Good evening. To begin, I want to say I fully stand with the people of Palestine, as most of us here do today. I'm here as a concerned Waterbury citizen.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Yes, got to state your name and address for the record, okay?
Tyron. And we are urging our Board of Alderman to pass a ceasefire resolution, urging you all to stand for something. The narrative is already that our city and our board have nothing to do with international conflicts, especially in Palestine. Nobody wants to touch the subject. We are here as a community telling you that we have a say on this matter. There are Palestinian Muslim members of our community that are affected by this, whether it's directly impacted, as you just heard, whether it's emotionally or physically. Whether it's to be liked or not, as the very multicultural city of Waterbury, we have community members that are here that are affected by everything. That anything in this world does in fact concern us as a multicultural city. And that is why we can take a stand on this as an international occurrence. As citizens of this state, we deserve a say in the complicity of the American government, who has already chosen a side, that is the side of Israel. The American government provides $4 billion in aid to Israel for their weapons and their army, and specifically Colt Manufacturing and Sikorsky, with bases here in Connecticut, provide arms directly to to Israel to continue the genocide of the Palestinian people. That is why it matters to us as a state and as a community that is affected by this. It matters to us as a city. We are here telling you as a community that we do not want to be a part of this. We will not remain complicit, and we urge those of you with power to speak up as well, to stand for something. It's being said that this doesn't matter for us, and yet relate to the party. Bridgeport, Hamden, Windsor, Hartford, and Haven have already deliberated on this exact matter, as of others of towns and cities that might not have gotten as much coverage, but that is about a ceasefire in Palestine, and it's time for us to catch up.
I want to first address why does the ceasefire correlate to Waterbury. It correlates very much to Waterbury because Waterbury is very familiar with violence against brown and black communities and communities of underprivileged or any other aspect that acknowledges us as ministers. First and foremost, I want to say to the council members, thank you for being council members and thank you for your positions. And also, I want you to recognize and realize who you are, because I see that predominantly it's predominantly half black and brown people, and it's something to be proud of. Being a black woman in Waterbury and experiencing all different kinds of things because of my identity. When we talk about violence in Waterbury, I think it's important for us to address the history of violence in Waterbury and how it correlates globally to the world. In 2016, we had an officer that was found guilty of sex trafficking. How does sex trafficking correlate to Waterbury? A 19-year-old girl in 2020 was raped and kidnapped at the Big Apple Motel, which is still open. People demanded justice for her, but we never got it. Some even standing outside the police station also acknowledging the fact that Waterbury had a connection to sex trafficking. Why do I bring these topics up and why are they relevant, again, to a ceasefire where people are being bombed, killed? We have a position, this moment in history.
Hello, and Ramadan Mubarak to all those celebrating. My name is Amira, and instead of having a big feast to break my fast with my family, I'm here today at Waterbury City Hall, breaking my fast with a date so I can ask Waterbury to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. I would like to start off with a statistic from Amnesty International. Every 4 minutes, an innocent Palestinian is killed. As someone who has had 85 members of their family brutally murdered, not only by Israel, but by the bombs and warplanes funded by the U.S. tax dollars, 45 members martyred in one bombing. My peers and I are wondering when this will end. How many lives will have to be taken for America and you, Waterbury, to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire? Israel has ended generations dating back to biblical times and destroyed most of the churches and mosques in Gaza. Yesterday was the first Tarawih prayer of Ramadan, and the Muslims of Gaza prayed on the rubble of what used to be Al-Qur'an Mosque. We cannot keep saying that the call for ceasefire is too complex when the reason to cease fire is right in front of our eyes. When babies are dying from starvation, that calls for a ceasefire. When children are getting their limbs severed, that calls for a ceasefire. And when dead mothers are getting ripped from the grips of their children, begging for them to come back, that calls for a ceasefire. This is not a war, this is a genocide. Aid trucks are being blocked from entering, and when an aid truck was brought to the desperate people of Gaza after denying the Gazan people aid for over a month, the IOF sprayed Palestinians with bullets, killing 112 and injuring 720 Palestinian men, women, and children. These people were trying to get flour. I'll say that again. These people were just trying to get flour.
Mr. President, aldermen and alderwomen, and guests, greetings of peace and blessed Ramadan to those of faith. Hashan. My name is Sohair Omer, 44 Sharon Road. I grew up in Waterbury. I'm an alumna of the Waterbury Public Schools. I see the Zimmermans here too. You as well. Oh, no, you didn't go. Your wife did. I'm a director of institutional research and a statistics lecturer at Connecticut State Community College, hello below, my colleague, at Naugatuck Valley here in Waterbury. I'm here to address you all on the most recent Israel and Palestine conflict, which has been horrifying and unconscionable to witness. You heard the statistics. Over 1,200 Israelis and over 30,000 Palestinians. Innocent lives have died. And 70% of them were women and children. 70% women and children. Even more disturbing is the fact that this conflict is mostly funded by our hard-earned tax dollars. According to USA Facts, the United States sent Israel $3.3 billion in fiscal year 2023, 99% of which went to IDF, the Israeli military. Meanwhile, 1/5, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 1/5 of the residents of Waterbury live below the poverty line. That's unacceptable. And the largest demographic, racial or ethnic group that lives below the poverty line is white, followed by Hispanic and Latino and Black and African American. Why are we sending our tax dollars overseas to kill innocent babies, boys and girls, instead of uplifting the residents of Waterbury out of poverty? I teach statistics. Do you know that the students at our community college, nearly half of them, aren't ready for college level math? Half my class can't round numbers correctly. Instead of funding the foreign military financing program, we should be increasing the funding for early college opportunity programs such as Gear Up and Upward Bound. We should be investing more in public education. We should be investing more in workforce development. I know someone was here from workforce investment. It's mind-boggling. And, why do we come to you? Why do we come to our city council? You know why? Because our representatives in Washington, D.C. aren't listening to us. The U.S. President, the U.S. Ambassador to the UN, and our Connecticut congressional delegation, and I'm looking at the camera because I want them to hear this, they're not listening to us. We went to them before we came here. So we, as concerned citizens, are coming to you, our local leaders, to say, please, make a formal statement to the U.S. government to say, stop sending our tax dollars overseas to fuel death and destruction, and invest those monies, reallocate those funds to American cities, including the city of Waterbury. So we urge you to place the ceasefire resolution on your agenda. This is an opportunity for you to speak up against injustice. My brother here invoked Dr. Martin Luther King. What did he say? Everyone knows this quote. He said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Isn't that right? Yes. This is a moral crisis, and we must rise to it. So again, we urge you to place a ceasefire resolution on your agenda and to pass it. I'm going to conclude my remarks by quoting Aaron Bushnell. He was a U.S. serviceman, may God have mercy on his soul, who set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy 2 weeks ago. He said, quote, "My name is Aaron Bushnell. I'm an active duty member of the U.S. Armed Forces, and I will no longer be complicit in genocide." He said that I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest. But compared to what the Palestinian people are experiencing at the hands of their colonizers, this isn't extreme at all. This is what our ruling class decided will be normal. Free Palestine. End quote. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What I said in Arabic is In the name of God, the most greatest, the most merciful, I come to you in peace. I come for you to save my children. If we were Palestinians, we would have been slaughtered. If I went to Palestine, we would have been murdered. Nothing more, nothing less. We're Yemenis, but our blood is Palestinian. For crossing the border, I went there. They treated me like an animal. Just because I was a Muslim and a well-known activist. And by the way, most of my work and all of my work is nothing but peace. We don't need a whole law enforcement, nothing more. I can control my people more than the whole police force, just like I did in Hartford. I'm just putting that out there. I'm someone who cares for all people and someone who calls for peace. We heard some statements about civil rights leaders like Malcolm X or Nelson Mandela. Back in the 60s, they talked about the freedom of Palestinians, including Dr. King, Malcolm X, who said that Palestine should have their land. And now we're coming because we feel that we're oppressed, that we are second-class citizens. Our people are being slaughtered. Our people are being killed. How is that acceptable? One side is trying to ban us, and the other side is trying to kill us. We want freedom. We want to be treated like humans. We want to stop being killed. Free Palestine.
Now a correction and an update. Last week I made one error in my remarks at the press conference supporting Hisham Talal, who is accused of putting red paint on a building in West Hartford, supposedly because of Palestine. I thought the paint had been thrown at Webster Bank for its connection to Elbit, Israel's biggest arms manufacturer. Actually, that bank shares a building with Eagle Investments, a subsidiary of a completely different bank. And Eagle Investments was being criticized for its ties with Elbit. It's our bad. And there's been a revision. The protest in Danbury on Saturday, March 16th will start at 1 Ives Street, and folks will gather at 12:30. This headline is about the return of Palestinian bodies. You recall the Israeli military took over and devastated Nasser Hospital, claiming that Hamas was using it as a military base and had probably buried the bodies of hostages who had been killed, buried them on hospital grounds. So they grabbed a bunch of bodies for inspection. No Israeli bodies were found, and so now they're giving the bodies back. A simple mistake. Well, now on to the next lie. Here's a headline from an article on March 14th. The corporate media is finally noticing that Congress looks like it will stop funding to UNRWA by law. Now from the article, quote, "We have to plan for the fact that Congress may make that pause permanent," unquote. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller told reporters on Tuesday. And then he contradicted himself and says, quote, "There are other organizations that are now providing some distribution of aid inside Gaza, but that is primarily the role of UNRWA is equipped to play, and that no one else is due to their long-standing work and their networks of distribution and their history inside of Gaza," Miller said. The Academy Award for Best International Film was won by Zone of Interest, which shows the family of Hoss, the commandant of Auschwitz, a family living a peaceful, pretty comfortable life right next to the Auschwitz concentration and extermination camp. A Jewish man, Jonathan Glazer, who was the film's director, gave the acceptance remarks. He said his movie was not just about Germans in the 1940s, but about people today closing their eyes to horrors around them, horrors done in their name. And he talked about Gaza. Among Zionists, there was a furious reaction. Batya Ungar Sargon, the Newsweek opinion editor, wrote this tweet: "I simply cannot fathom the moral rot in someone's soul that leads them to win an award for a movie about the Holocaust, and with that platform given to them, to accept that award by saying, 'We stand here as men who refute their Jewishness.'" Except what she said was a lie, because she misquoted. Here's the full sentence. "Right now we stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation which has led to conflict for so many innocent people." In other words, they were criticizing the frauds who use Jewish suffering to disguise their crimes. And it isn't just me saying her comment is false. It's right up there on the Snopes fact-checking site. Finally, as we record, news has come that the state trooper who killed Mubarak Solomon has been acquitted of all criminal charges. I attended the last day of the trial and I had things to say, but I can't. I'm sure it's a very bitter day for the Mubarak Solomon family. It's a bitter day for all of us. That's our program for today. I'm Stanley Heller for the Struggle Video News.